Welcome to the Diet Fiction Podcast, the show that tells you the truth about diet, nutrition, and health to educate, motivate, and inspire you to live a healthier, more fulfilling life. And here is your host, Michał Sawierski.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Diet Fiction Podcast. I'm your host, Michał Sawierski. I'm a documentary filmmaker, author, and wellness advocate. And in this show, we expose several misconceptions and myths about diet, health, and nutrition. Join me every week as I interview some of the most forward-thinking and disruptive health experts on the planet to help educate, motivate, and inspire you to live a healthier and more fulfilling life. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. You might be wondering, what is a documentary filmmaker doing creating a podcast? Well, let me tell you. By the way, don't worry, I'm still making films. That is still the main focus of my work. But I decided to create this podcast to stay in touch with my audience, with you, more often, and share a lot of the topics that I cover in my films, but also things that were not able to fit in the documentaries because of timing or because they were too controversial. And on this platform, I just have complete freedom to talk about whatever I want, to interview whoever I want, and empower both you and I with information that can be truly life-changing. I hope you get a lot of value and information from this episode and this podcast. And if you'd like to support us, you can click on our Patreon link below, where you can donate just $1 per episode, or click on our Amazon affiliate link, so we can get some pocket change to help cover our costs and keep the show growing. This episode is brought to you by the Food Choices Academy. I co-founded this online platform with Dr. Pam Popper a couple of years ago, and we offer several courses on plant-based nutrition. We recently revamped the platform and lowered the pricing to make it more accessible to everyone. If you want to check it out, go to foodchoicesacademy.com, and for my listeners, I'm offering a 15% discount on all courses. Just type in the coupon code PODCAST at checkout and you'll get the 15% discount. Thanks again for tuning in, and let's get started. So we're here with Dr. Armando Gonzales, aka Dr. Mondo. Dr. Mondo is a licensed therapist. He also has a doctorate in psychology. He's a popular speaker, invited to present on the research of psychology and weight loss all around the world. He also had exclusive access to conduct academic research with former contestants of NBC's show The Biggest Loser. I had the pleasure to meet Dr. Mondo a few months ago. We actually recorded an interview for my upcoming documentary, Diet Fiction. So we won't go into all of the details that we talk in the film, but I really wanted to invite Dr. Mondo to this podcast because we talk a lot about nutrition and diet, but there's one aspect of weight loss that I think it's often taken for granted, which is the psychological aspect, the mental aspect of a person's weight loss journey. And that's what he specializes in. And I really wanted to dig deeper into this topic. So Dr. Mondo, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate being a guest on your podcast.
Sounds great. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your involvement with The Biggest Loser. I mean, that's such a popular show. Everybody, most people have seen it. And, it's really kind of part of the television culture, It has a lot of influence over people's decisions when it comes to diet and weight loss and exercise. So what was your involvement as far as your research with the contestants?
Well, I got a chance to do the first research study that NBC allowed to be granted access to. And it was a huge honor for me. And really how it all started is just the fact that, Michał, I grew up as an overweight kid, and I just had so many private conversations with different people that also grew up overweight, who also felt that there was this emotional side of being overweight and this emotional, thing that we had in our relationship with food, where we just weren't eating McDonald's because it tastes good, but there was also this emotional relationship we had and how food comforted us. And so I knew that all of that existed. And fast forward, when I was in my doctorate program, I made it my goal to really go out and to first learn about the research, this feeling of what it's like to be overweight in a weight shaming society, and what it's like to feel like you're almost have no control with your addiction to food. And when I went out to research in grad school, what I found is that there really wasn't a roadmap that explained all of the changes that people who spent most of their life overweight, and then they go through a drastic weight loss transformation. There's not really a roadmap to explain what kind of mental, emotional changes they go through, how their relationships change, how the world views them differently, the story they tell about themselves, how that changes or maybe doesn't. And then there was also this part about, so many people, we hear the statistic that as high as 95% of people who lose weight gain it back within 5 years or less. So, those two elements really encouraged me to want to go and study more about this phenomenon. So why not be able to allow NBC and The Biggest Loser to engage in that process of telling the story for research? And so that was the idea. And we approached NBC. This was about 10 years ago. So it was back in about 2008. And we said, we want to do this study and we just want to have a chance to talk to your former contestants. And from there, we were granted access to speak with former contestants of the program. And then what happened after that was really a 5-year saga of doing the interviews, analyzing the interviews, and then creating a comprehensive theory roadmap as was the intention to help people now and say, look, if you've spent most of your life overweight, this is kind of what's going to happen. This is a roadmap that's going to tell you the different stops you'll have along the way. This is the phase that you'll go through when you maybe don't recognize yourself in the mirror. This is a phase you'll go through when people start resisting your change. And all of this, to put it in the bigger picture and how it fits in, I think, to what the work that you're doing and the work that we're all trying to do is, we're trying to help people, but we're also trying to stop treating just the symptom and really get to the root cause of why people are struggling and why so many folks are obese and overweight. And, in my world, that's tuning into the deeper emotional pain and tuning into more of the root issues that lead to someone showing up struggling with obesity, heart disease, hypertension, all these health conditions.
What were some of the most interesting findings that you got from the study? I mean, some of the contestants were successful long term, but you were telling me that you also saw some of the contestants gain all the weight back, right? So what
Yeah.
was there a common reason for that, or what did you find out?
Yeah, what it really came down to was two things, and these are the two things that when I get a chance to go and speak throughout the country, that I really try to urge people, if you want to be successful long term, what we can learn from these folks in the research study is that basically what they're doing is that they're making their weight loss journey. It may have started off about weight loss and simply wanting to look better, feel better, have more confidence. But at some point, your weight loss journey, number one, has to be more about rewriting your entire life story and have weight loss just be a component of that. So, people in the research we found that were successful, they really were saying that this is about not just shedding these layers of weight that I have, but it's also shedding this identity that I have of never making myself a priority or never taking care of myself or being a people pleaser or never going after the dreams that I have in my heart that are really unrealized. So it became a process of weight loss was going to be a component of this larger change process. And so that was the number one thing. People who are successful, they really were all about rewriting their story. And often they would talk about their motivation, their why, as being really bigger than them. So like I could ask people, and I have this thing where I'll tell people I can really spend a few minutes with you and ask you one question, and it will give me a lens into your likelihood of long-term success. And that's, why do you want to make this change? Why do you want to transform? Why do you want to lose weight? And if people start talking about it and it's just about fitting into a new dress size or a pant size or stopping to feel ashamed, those are great initial reasons. You can lose weight, but keeping it off is a whole different subject, Michał, and I know you know that from your research too. And so people who really keep it off long term, it's got to be bigger than that. It's got to be about creating a legacy, and that's where we get into this rewriting your story, and that's where we get into wanting to be around for your kids long term, or wanting to live out ethics and values that are bigger than yourself. So that's the number one thing, rewriting your story. And then the number two thing is that this is the part that's often forgotten about, but we have an emotional relationship to food. People who are successful long term rewrite their story, number one. Number two, they shift their relationship with food. I like to say they renegotiate it. So it's basically, in order to renegotiate your relationship with food, you have to understand, why is it that I'm so motivated to like food? In part, it's because, as Dr. Lyle and Goldhammer talk about, the pleasure trap that we get stuck in, and these foods are designed to create dopamine, and they're designed to get us to feel really pleasureful when we have them, and get addicted. But on top of that, I believe there's an emotional component that is often neglected. And so that's where we find that when people are aware of how they're using food to fill emotional holes, or to be comfort, or to be an escape for them, when they're able to be aware of that process and change that process, that's what makes people successful long term. So it's rewriting your story, but it's also looking at your relationship with food beyond just the surface level, and really kind of getting underneath the surface and looking at the emotional components and how those play a role into food decisions.
So essentially, people are focusing on weight loss for the wrong reasons, right? For reasons that not necessarily give them enough motivation to keep the weight off long term, right? It might be enough of a motivation, let's say, to fit into that dress for that party, or to something along those lines, but it's not enough motivation to keep doing that over and over and over, and just sort of create a change in lifestyle that will be permanent.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this thing is so multifaceted, and in your films, you always do such a good job of pragmatically laying out all the different facets. This is a complicated thing, absolutely. I mean, but I think if we get to the root of your why, and why do you want to lose weight, what it allows us to unpack then too is that when your why is really big, and so for me, and I had a transformation of actually, I had, unfortunately, 8 transformations, 8 or 9, I lost count, where I would lose the same 80 pounds over and over. And eventually what happened is that I had to learn, and it was interesting because it was happening while I was doing this research. I had to learn that, I had to rewrite my story separately from my weight loss journey. And as I did, I got married, I have now 2 kids. And so my why today, I feel more confident when I'm lean, but at the same time, at this point, that's a secondary thing. The first vehicle of change that I want to be is have my health be a vehicle of change, so I could be around for my kids and live out my mission, which is to help others in their health journey and have integrity in that. And so for me, it's interesting because as I talk so much about this stuff, I've watched my why change. And I guess my point on how complex this issue is that with time, I couldn't just go for the 6-week weight loss challenge, because my why became bigger than that. I had to find a long-term solution. And I think that's the other part of this too, is that, if you have a why that's long-term, you're not so panicked about losing, 20 pounds in 6 weeks or something like that. You're more concerned with, running the long race, which is extending your life as long. That's the finish line, is the end of life. You want to extend it to as long as you can. And when you start thinking that way, you're more attracted to then trying to find a solution to that, of a way that you can eat, or a lifestyle that you can live, not just for 6 weeks or a few months, but for an entire lifetime. And that's, for me, what led me to, asking those questions. And I know, similar to you, it led me ultimately to a plant-based lifestyle, which is what I've embraced, and allows me to do all of that.
And you lost a ton of weight, man. I have to say, I mean, every time I see some of your pictures on Facebook or Instagram, I'm like, man, he lost weight again. He looks skinnier, man.
I know.
So you're doing a really great job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and I can tell you, I feel like as much as I have credentials in psychology and as a therapist, I have credentials in weight loss. I've been through it a lot of times. And this has been, I can tell you, it started on September 5th, 2017. So it's been over a year now. And this is the longest I've ever stuck to anything. Typically, when I would lose weight in the past, it would be something that I'd be 6 days a week on, and one day would be my cheat day. This has been completely different. It's been amazing, and it's been effortless. So the weight loss has not been the focus. It's been all about feeling better, having more energy, having more clarity. So it's just amazing. It's just amazing. The weight loss is a huge benefit, but all the other benefits I struggle to not put those ahead of the weight loss.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I want to get a little deeper into your weight loss journey and your plant-based journey in a little bit, but I wanted to explore with you the impact that stress has on weight loss. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because we all live in such busy lives. Most people, between work and family and life is stressful these days. And how much of an impact that has when it comes to weight gain or weight loss?
Yeah, and again, this is part of what we talk about in terms of how many different levels and how complicated really weight loss is because it affects so many different things. You could do an entire podcast on stress and how it impacts things. On one hand, right, you could talk about how it would impact the body and how the different chemicals that then enter into your body that stress produces that prevents you from losing weight. Your body literally goes into this mode of trying to preserve itself because your body's getting this message that that things are really risky and you're in almost a fight or flight sort of state. So there's that, and then there's also the fact that I think stress, just in terms of how people structure their lives, we don't have much margin for much of anything. So if someone gets sick, or if one of our kids is having a tough time at school, or anything that just that we didn't predict was going to happen, which we all know life's unpredictable, it really throws a lot of us off because we're so busy and we're so squeezed to just get through our day as it is. And so what that means is that often what I find is the first thing people will cut is their self-care. So they'll stop coming to therapy, or they'll stop making time for friends. So now you're losing social connection. People become more isolated. That's where depression and anxiety starts to happen. That's where now stress begins to overtake someone. And then ultimately it leads to this lifestyle of not just, sure, it's not exercising enough, which a lot of people would probably say they don't, but it's also not making really conscious food choices, or it's using food to act as a form of self-care. So now stress has created this environment in the schedule of life where you need food to comfort you because you feel like you don't have the comfort from the social connection or the sense of belonging, and you don't have that relationship with your spouse or relationship with your friends. So you're using food almost as like this go-to, or as this only break in the day that you have. So many people I talk to, Michał, are the only time they have for themselves, if they really stop and think about it, is time. For some folks, it's time alone with food. Sometimes it's in their car. Sometimes it's in their living room in front of a television. But these are the only times where people feel like their brains are able to shut off, or where they actually stop feeling stressed. And so it's really, it speaks to, again, stress affects the body, but it also is just seeping out in our schedules and how just busy we are. And that in turn not only makes it hard to lose weight, but it also sets up practices and behaviors of survival that are contributing to weight gain.
That's really interesting. Hey guys, just to take a quick break here, I hope you're enjoying the show. Just a reminder, if you would like to support us, you can click on our Patreon link below, where you can donate just $1 per episode, or click on our Amazon affiliate link, so you can get some pocket change to help cover our costs and keep the show growing. This episode is brought to you by the Food Choices Academy, an online platform that offers several amazing courses on plant-based nutrition. Our main course, the Food Choices Plan for Healthy Eating and Living, is a great value. It's a high-level production video course with Dr. Pam Popper, where she covers everything you need to know about plant-based nutrition to help you achieve your goals. If you want to check it out, just go to foodchoicesacademy.com. And for my listeners, I'm offering a 15% discount on all courses. Just type in the coupon code PODCAST at checkout. And now let's continue with Dr. Armando Gonzalez.
There really isn't a magic pill for weight loss. There isn't just one solution, one supplement, or one workout program that people are going to do and are going to achieve, these amazing results, and it's going to solve their problem for the rest of their lives. I think that weight loss, it's really to achieve your goals, you need to kind of have a multifaceted approach. You need to understand diet and nutrition. You don't have to become a PhD in nutrition, but you sort of have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And there's so many ways, if you're a busy professional, you don't have a lot of time to educate yourself about nutrition. There's documentaries out there, Forks Over Knives, My Film, Food Choices, What the Health. There's a lot of great films out there that you can just sort of watch, and then you get this immersion, of information that then you can dig deeper if you decide to do so. And then you can use resources like, nutritionfacts.org with Dr. Michael Greger. So there's a lot of ways to become better informed as far as diet and nutrition, and it doesn't really take a lot of time. And I think it's really important that people arm themselves with information. I think that's the biggest asset, the biggest weapon is information, because there's so much misinformation out there and just lies, essentially. So it's very important to understand what's real science and what's sort of fake science or partially true science. And at the same time, understanding other things like the psychological aspect of a weight loss journey that we were talking about. And there's another thing that you often mention in your work that it's really interesting, is about surrounding yourself with a support system of like-minded people. Because oftentimes we see people that struggle with weight loss or just with their health that are in an environment that doesn't really help with that process, and they don't want to, sometimes there's traditions and culture involved. They don't want to offend their mothers or their grandmothers or their spouses. They want to keep eating those meals, and when they go out, they don't want to sort of look strange with their friends. Hey, you always order chicken wings. Why are you ordering salad? They don't want to be sort of like the weird person. So what do you suggest to people? How do you go about surrounding yourself with a support system without necessarily losing your friendships? Sometimes, maybe some friendships are better left in the past and some traditions are better left in the past, but we don't necessarily, you don't want to stop being friends with your friends, and you want to stop hanging out with your family just because you're changing your diet, right? So, or lifestyle. How do you go about that?
Yeah, again, I think the word that keeps coming back up in this is complicated. And this is why a lot of people, I think, avoid really getting in and trying to shift their health, because it's such a complicated, as you said, multifaceted problem that requires multifaceted approaches to resolve the issues. And this is one of those elements that we don't always talk about, but one of the things that I love about the research is that when I got a chance to do the research, it validated essentially everything you're saying as being par for the course and par for the journey for anyone who goes through a weight loss transformation, especially a drastic weight loss. So if you're losing, over 25% of your body weight, then certainly your system, your friends, your family, your coworkers, your environment, they're going to have some pushback and resistance. So that's one of the things that we found was actually a common stage. It was a stage where you would, as you get kind of closer to really cementing this as your lifestyle, a lot of your friends and your family, your coworkers, there's going to be some that are really going to support you, and they might even, follow suit. But there's going to be others that are going to be really resistant. And one of the things I always tell people is that the frequency, how many people you have resisting, is not going to determine whether or not you're successful. So some people get dealt a bad hand with the resistance stuff. They get their partner, their spouse, they get their friends, they get their they got everyone resisting and saying, like you said, hey, what, you're too good not to eat mom's chicken wings. You're too good not to eat, mom's carnitas, like they'd say in Mexican families. And, some people get those really tough hands. Other people don't have much resistance. That isn't really the determining factor of success. It's not how much resistance determines whether you're successful or not. It's the response to the resistance that's going to determine whether you're successful or not. And again, we just continue to go back to this initial question of, what is your why? Why do you want to have a health transformation? And if your why is bigger than weight loss, then you're going to start learning how to stand up for yourself while also renegotiating those relationships, And so for some people, the people that it really that you're going to keep in your life no matter what, I call those like the blood bonds, right? Including some of your really close friends. I treat some of my friends that I've grown up with since I was a kid. They're like family to me. We might shift and change how we do life, including how we eat or how we exercise over the years, but I'm always going to still have them in some sphere of my life because I love them. And I think in those relationships where if someone has a resisting spouse or a resisting parent, that's where you have to really stay firm on what it is that you're doing. So you have to, bring your own food to the family events. You have to maybe even have difficult conversations like, hey, that's 3 times now in the past week that you made me feel guilty or tried to make me feel guilty for not joining for pizza when I told you it's not about the activity, it's about the pizza and why I'm not joining. And, so you might have to have hard conversations with those people that are going to be in your life no matter what. And then there are certain friends that I believe are just, unfortunately, if you look back, not everyone is going to be your friend through all the seasons of life. And so part of what needs to happen too, and this goes back to the initial part of your question, you have to develop a support system that speaks the same language. And in this case, the language needs to be transformation. The language needs to be about rewriting your story, weight loss, getting healthier. In order to, if you get dealt that first hand, like we talked about, with all that resistance, the only way you're going to be able to overcome that, number one, it will start with you. It's going to start with your why. But number two, you have to have your support system that you're linked into. We're social creatures. We're meant to have a sense of belonging. And when we have that, we tend to be able to be more confident in how we show up in the world. And the same goes for making the really difficult stands that we need to make with loved ones in our life or at work or wherever it is that we go. We're much stronger in doing that, having those hard conversations, standing up for ourselves when we know that we have someone standing alongside us or behind us. And that's where the community comes in. And so we live in a really isolated time. That's just, we seem to all be connected. We're connected here by technology. But the reality is that a lot of people are doing life alone. And that's where I always say, part of this journey is going to be a journey to get you out of isolation and into community. And if you can find community over people that are sharing your values in terms of the sort of healthy lifestyle you want to live, you're going to be so much more successful long term. There's just no way to avoid that.
Really? Yeah, that's really interesting. And what do you define as far as support system? Because that can be a lot of things. And how can people go about finding support systems? Because, some will say, hey, I don't know anybody. All my friends eat junk food or behave in a certain way, and my family is this way. How can I find a support group? Does it have to be actual people, or can it be just information or a Facebook group or a community online? What is a support system in your view?
I think that it's a great question because it's all those things. It's all those things you just mentioned, but in a perfect world, ideally, it's a live and in-person human being that you can accessibly get in front of at least once a week. Or that you can pick up and dial on the phone or schedule a time to get in front of. That is the most optimal. So if I had a choice for someone, I would say, I want one other or two other people. I'd say two because, it's a lot of pressure to put on one person. But at least a couple people that you can do life with, that you're able to, when it comes to this aspect of your life, they're also committed to moving in the same direction. Hey, if that's your partner, if that's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, that's a huge bonus. And I would say that's going to enhance your relationship. But it can be one of your close friends, but you need to have someone that when I say support system, it's not just to keep you accountable, quote unquote, to eating healthy or going to the gym, but it's also to have as emotional support. Because again, what we're getting at here is that some of the ways we use food is to fill the gap where we don't feel like we feel all alone with these uncomfortable emotions. So if you're going to stop eating your feelings away, you have to learn how to talk them out. You need to have that support system where you can do that. So in a perfect world, it's live people. It's people like, for me in my life, I have at least 2 people, and I'm lucky to have more, but I built them over time, that they eat the same way I eat. We have similar spiritual beliefs. We have similar values for our life, and we do life together. And it's not always easy. It's not always pretty, but we're always there. And if I'm struggling or they're struggling, we'll reach out to one another. That's what ideally I want. And I think if you're in a position where you can't get that right now, that's where you start to build around what you have. And I've heard instances, Michal, of like some people that don't have anything that I just mentioned, but what they did have in a really dark time is they had a support group, like a plant-based or a vegan support group, or a weight loss support group. And it was on Facebook, and it was through groups, and it was private. I don't want to underestimate. Those things are hugely important. And my network and support system is made up of some of those things. I think they're incredibly valuable, but I do urge people to eventually move even beyond that, because what we really need and what we're created and I think designed to be is in relationship. And we need to be living intimately with people, vulnerably doing life and being courageous in how we share what our experiences are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's very important. And, for people that maybe don't know that you mentioned, 1 or 2 people, they don't have this 1 or 2 people in their life that they can talk to, or even maybe they have, but, they don't feel comfortable yet talking to these people. That's when a professional like you comes into place, right? I mean, can you talk about the benefits of, talking to a professional therapist that specializes in this kind of work like yourself? Because I think that there's still a lot of people have sort of this barrier when it comes to talking to a therapist. They don't want to kind of admit to themselves that they need therapy, and they sort of there's that sort of negative connotation sometimes that comes with that. Can you talk about your opinion?
Yeah, and I can relate to it, because not just because I'm a therapist, but also because I always tell my clients that, I've sat on the couch before. I still sit on the couch. I still go to therapy. It's one of the things that we believe, many of us in this field, in order to be effective at what we do, we have to also take care of ourselves in similar ways and seek out therapy. So we're lucky that we're in a time now that we are going through a transformation of no longer simply viewing therapy for people that are quote unquote crazy or need help. The reality is that we all could use support. And the way that my role functions is that, so you take the example of someone who, as you mentioned, might not have someone they can sit in front of. Well, that's where a therapist comes in. And a therapist isn't someone that you hire simply to listen to you. It's also to reflect things back to you in a really compassionate, loving, empathetic way. And a lot of times we don't even know the impact that can have on us, just to feel that sense of being heard, just to have that sense too that someone else is going to try to hold us accountable to the things that we want in our life. A lot of times that's the push that we need to actually make shifts and changes. So people that come into my practice a lot, I do get everything that you would imagine that a therapist would see, but then I also get people who come in because they go, I've tried losing weight a bunch of times and I'm hopeless, or I just lost the weight, but now I have all this new attention from the opposite sex and I'm uncomfortable with that. People come in at different points in their journey, but I think what's unique about myself and the other folks that are passionate about helping people who are going through a health transformation is that we really want to support you. And if you don't have that support system, we want to be that one safe place that you can kind of get some practice at opening up with. Because that's the other thing, is that, like you said, people often go, I don't have any of those people around me. Well, here's the thing. They're around you. You just don't know it, or you haven't utilized them yet. And so part of what it takes is in therapy, you learn how to be vulnerable. You learn how to share what's on your heart and what's on, on your mind, openly. And that's something that a lot of us have never been taught. So we need some practice. And the more we get practice in therapy, I see it all the time. People then just start, without even realizing it, they start doing that in how they connect with people outside of therapy. And that's what leads to those networks that we're talking about. And so sometimes we just need to learn that skill. And therapy is like the place that you come, the culture that you get exposed to that sort of skill, and then you can take it outside of the room.
Absolutely. And I had similar experiences. I think just processing your emotions, it's so important. If you're able to do that, whether you're just talking to someone or therapy or whatever way it works for you, just processing your emotions, letting go. I think that plays a very important role, not only in your weight loss and health journey, but in life in general, because we have all these sort of subconscious programming that we accumulate over the years, and it ends up running our lives and finding ways and coping mechanisms that allow us to sort of process and release those emotions. I mean, man, whenever I'm able to do that, it's just such a big weight off my shoulders. I think it's really important to find ways to do that every now and then.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer that helps in many different aspects of our lives.
I love it. Yeah, me too. I think because, again, that's why we all need it. No one's excluded from that. We all need those releases 100%.
Cool. So I also wanted to talk about your transformation, your weight loss journey, and how you transitioned to a different diet, to a plant-based diet, and how that affected you. Because, it's been really interesting to see your transformation, how you lost all this weight during a relatively short period of time and kept it off, and seems like you're still losing the weight. So tell us how did you become inspired and motivated to transition to a plant-based diet?
Well, I think the motivation started for me, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago when I saw Forks Over Knives. I remember
that's a common one.
Yeah, it's just something about that one that to this day, I just, every time I watch it, there's something about it that it speaks directly to you in a way that, and again, I mentioned the word pragmatic because I would say that's what Food Choices is too. And for the folks that haven't seen it, I'm, fortunate enough to have seen Diet Fiction, and it's laid out the same way, but it's this pragmatic approach that you just can't argue with when information is laid out. I remember seeing Forks Over Knives and just going, okay, well, that makes sense, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I guess what I also realized looking back is it's easy to verbalize now, but I had a conviction on my heart that this was the way I needed to eat, and this was going to solve for me. You mentioned earlier there is no magic pills, but this was going to be the closest thing I could get to a long-term solution that could really take a lot of the heavy lifting off my shoulders if I could just follow it. And so I spent about 5 years or so thinking about it, putting it off, rationalizing it, trying it for a few days only to sputter out. And then it was last year when I had my son, and he had just turned a year old last July in 2017. And shortly after that, we got news that we would be having a second child, my now 6-month-old daughter, Isabella. And I remember thinking to myself, this is so exciting. All I've ever wanted is to have kids. And here I am. I have a boy and I have a girl. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling like I'm just, I'm the luckiest person on the face of the earth. However, there's also a part of me that was really terrified. And what I was terrified about was this realization of I hardly have the energy to get through a day with my son and balance the other responsibilities. I since have added so many more to my plate with the public speaking and the things I'm doing now, the Facebook Live interview show. But at the time, even I was thinking, I don't have enough energy to even make it through a day. How will I realistically have, energy for another child and to have a baby again? So that's really what pushed me over the threshold with my why and saying, my why looking back became redeveloped into where it became no longer a choice for me. It was, okay, now you need to listen to this. And then again, the question I think a lot of people come to is, how do I practically do it? Maybe I think at first, eating plant-based makes sense, but the hard part is, how do I carry it out? So for me, I had to hire a coach, and I found a coach online, and she's someone that had been trained through, similar training programs that folks in the Forks Over Knives community were trained with. And, I got linked up with her, and basically she challenged me in a lot of ways that a therapist would, really. I mean, she challenged me in ways. She said, look, you're going around right now, forget the fact that you got a kid coming, you need energy. I understand that. You're speaking to people about being healthy and you're not living it, and that was a punch to the gut, literally. Yeah. And it was this realization of like, wow, and she said, you're effective, I imagine, at what you do, but how much more effective could you be if you lived it? And so, I paired those two things together, this idea of character and integrity needing to grow, also with the fact that I needed to have more to give to my family. I put those two together. I hired her as my coach. She started reviewing my meals, and I said I'd do it for 30 days. And after 30 days, I felt so good that I was addicted to how I felt, and I just wanted to keep going. And I never anticipated that I would have done it for over a year, and I never anticipated that I would say I'm never going back, but I did it for over a year and I'm not going back. And yeah, I don't even, like we talked about before, I don't weigh myself. So I don't know how much weight I lost, and I don't know if I'm done losing weight. I'm just kind of trusting the process that eventually my body's going to just settle in where it wants to go. But in the process, I mean, I'm training for a marathon right now. I ran, I think, almost 200 miles in a month. It's just stuff that I could not have even dreamed of a year ago. And again, I just credit it back to this simple plant-based thing. I've heard it again, time and again, but the results are typical. There's nothing special about the people who do it. It's just, there's something special about these nutrients. When you put them in your body, you feel yourself, the magic just happens, and you have to give credit to that.
Yeah, it's the power of plants, man, the power of nature.
It is. You can't outrun it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I understand that you're also implementing some of that new knowledge into your practice as well. You're kind of educating some of your patients with that information.
Yeah, it's one of those. It was a dilemma for me at first, because I didn't want to hitch my wagon to like any specific way of eating, because I didn't want to limit who I could work with. Mm-hmm. And now I'm at this different, I look at it differently. I go, it's worked so well for me and others. And you see, I mean, it's just countless testimonials of people that it works for, that I almost feel that it's unethical for me not to tell people about this. And so naturally, I'm pretty passionate about the things I believe in. So it's hard, because people see my transformation, they go, what are you doing? And so they ask the question, and I say, okay, well, if you want to know, and then I end up telling them, and that generally generates interest from there. So yeah, in my practice, I'm incorporating that into my practice and how I help people. And I've watched some of my clients that came to me just for therapy are now using Whole Foods plant-based. They're watching shifts happen in their mood with, less depression, less anxiety, obviously weight loss, less emotional eating. So we're seeing all of that. And, in my community too, here in Sacramento, I'm involved in, I kind of wear a few different hats, and in all the different various hats that I wear, it's a passion of mine. I just got done with a meeting today with a local spiritual leader. And, he's looking to, how can the city get behind an objective like this? And I'm really framing it, not in part as a way to get ourselves spiritually fit. And by treating our health as no longer this neglected area of our life, but to take back control of that and be empowered by it, but also seeing it as a movement of social justice, of service, that there's so many underserved neighborhoods that are right now literally imprisoned in food deserts. Yeah. And what we really need to do is we need people that are believing in this to live it, and to go into those neighborhoods and to, teach food literacy, teach, take available land and build, of course, food gardens and community lands to come together. And so there's such a big need. And I'm just trying at this point to kind of assess everything in my life that I'm already involved in and just say, how can I give people access to this? And it seems to be applicable to so many of the different hats that I end up wearing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What a great initiative. I look forward to hearing more about it. So on this show, we also want to demystify a lot of the things that are talked about and a lot of the myths perpetuated by the weight loss and diet industries. So, what I wanted to ask you, what are some of the things that shock you the most or really like piss you off, when it comes to the weight loss and diet industry out there? What are some of those things, if any?
Gosh, what pisses me off? Where do I start? I mean, the one that pisses me off a lot, because I've fallen for it just like so many people have, is this idea that weight loss is going to cure everything. Mm-hmm. Weight loss is going to fix your self-esteem. It's going to fix the story you tell about yourself. It's going to fix a dysfunctional marriage. And it's a subtle thing that is sold to us time and again by diets and gurus and things like that. And the reality is that you have to do the work. You have to address, just as you need to address your diet and exercise regimens, you need to address your relationships. You need to address your emotional health. And so that frustrates me so much when people buy the lie that, there is a magic pill, that it's going to fix everything. I think, something else that frustrates me too is just the short-term mindset. There's so many things that are out there that are truly set up to get results short-term, but unfortunately not work long-term. And it creates repeat customers. And so there's so many people that are making money off of repeat customers because they know the model works for weight loss, but it doesn't work for sustained weight loss. And when people feel vulnerable and panicked and ashamed, they're going to go right back to the place that they thought they experienced success. And I won't name names on this, but I'll just throw a blanket over a lot of the diet industry and say it's pretty much virtually everywhere in the diet industry where you see this trend and people will go, I have to go back to where I lost weight, because if I could just follow that liquid diet for a little bit longer, I'd be successful. When in reality, it's like, no, that way of approaching your health is what's got you in trouble. So, those are a few of the things. And I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't say the final thing, which is treating just the symptom. Again, if someone comes to you, to me, when they're overweight or they're obese, I don't get caught too much in looking at that as anything other than a dashboard indicator light on their car dashboard that says that there's something that we need to lift the hood up and investigate. I'm not going to just do whatever it takes to get the light to go off. I'm going to try to treat the deeper issue underneath the hood. And that frustrates me too, is that we haven't yet evolved to a point as a helping field where we're helping people and we have this, as you said, this integrated multidisciplinary approach. I believe it's the only way. It's the only way to long-term success. So if someone is looking for long-term success, we need to be able to provide solutions for them in terms of their mind, their body, and then I also believe spiritually. Those are three elements that kind of make us up and derive who we are. And so we have to start looking at this issue, quote unquote, of obesity and weight loss as being something much bigger than just the indicator lights that we see. We got to actually start treating the true root of the problem, not just the symptom.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you summarized it really well. And what is next for you? What projects are you working on, and how can we support you? How can we help promote your work?
I appreciate that. I right now, the projects that are next for me is this past year, I spent a good amount of time going around the country and sharing my research on the emotional and psychological side of weight loss to help really, change how people think about their health journeys and really set them up for success in those ways. I have an online program that they can find through Dr. Mondo, drmondo.org. And they could go on there, they could check out the program. But this year, I think, as I get ready for to step into the new year, is going to really be about me doing some of what I'm starting to do now, which is to integrate a lot of my work that I've done with the psychology and integrate it into this platform with using the plant-based nutrition as a way to really create this long-term change. And one of the things that I'm doing a lot more is I'm going to be going out and sharing my story a lot. So I'll be doing more speaking, but when I go to speak, it won't just be about what I learned from others. I'll actually, I feel like I've been called to come out and be more vulnerable and actually put some integrity on the line and say, this is the way I'm living. And I ran from that for a long time, but I'm not going to anymore. And I think that's going to be a key to helping people with long-term success. So I'll be doing more speaking. And people can definitely support me by keeping up with me, following me on Facebook and Instagram. That's where I tend to be the most active. And then tuning in to a show that I have on Facebook that we're in the works of trying. It's always a long shot until it happens, but of trying to get some traction with Facebook Watch and to try to get our program eventually picked up by Facebook Watch, so we have our own channel. And that channel is where I interview people about the untold stories behind their weight loss transformation. So it's about, the emotional side of things. And I do interview a lot of people there that are plant-based transformers. So that's the other part of it too, is that I'm trying to just get as big of a platform as I can to do what I feel is some of my gifts and my ability to communicate enthusiasm, research, knowledge, and to get this message out there that you don't have to be a prisoner to your health. You don't have to believe that your health is just something you passively accept. You can take an active choice in what your health outcomes are going to be. I've experienced it myself. I want to tell that story, and I also want to show people how to be successful long term. So those are some of the things that I'm eyeing as we approach next year.
That's great, and I think what you're doing, it's really quite unique. I don't think there's a lot of therapists out there doing what you're doing, and I think you're really leading people by example, being that example of success, of long-term success, and showing people how to achieve, the weight loss that they're seeking, the health that they're seeking, not as a sort of quick fix, but as a solution hopefully for the rest of their life. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. We're going to include your links on the description here. And thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, it's an honor always to speak with you and be a part of anything you're doing. I always want to be included because the same can be said for you too. I'm so excited for everything you're doing. So keep it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And guys, Dr. Mondo is also featured on Diet Fiction, a new documentary coming out on January 1st. We have an official date for the launch, so stay tuned. We'll be posting more updates as we get closer to that day. And Dr. Mondo, thanks again.